I got no picture of myself on my screen, so I'm not sure if this is recording, but I'm going to put it up anyways. Well, hi there. My name is Charles Ray Dawson. I'm the Associate Broker, Residential Sales Manager of ProStar Realty. This is the Unnamed Real Estate Podcast, episode 252. And as you can tell, it's wintertime here in Phoenix. And it's after 3 o'clock, and yeah, so we're just going to have to deal with this lighting. There's not much more I can do, except maybe try to crank everything up. Problem is, it's just, this is what you're going to get, so that's okay. Nobody wants to see my face. I got charts. We'll pay attention to the charts. So in fact, I can just go like this and say, okay, let's just pay attention to the charts. Okay. I hope you guys are all having a good week and good time. Good Thanksgiving. That was the reason for the short one. Like every year, it's like, do I want to record something for Thanksgiving? And like the day before, it's way, way too busy. So you get what you get. So speaking of getting what you're getting, people have got. Across the board, a lot of fun stuff to talk about today. Really wanted to do a lot more show prep than I actually got around to doing, because I have like 3 things to talk about. The first one is this really great document coming out. It was Demographica. All right. It's put out by one of the major colleges, and it showed like housing affordability throughout the world. Now, this was brought to my attention by one of those YouTube channels I follow called Economics Explained, where the guy talks about general economic stuff. And the big one was, why isn't housing affordable? And he breaks it down. Now, this is one of those ones I'm going to give you the show notes below, because I strongly encourage you guys to get smarter. And when you get smarter, you can turn around and start making decisions that are smarter. And hopefully, if everybody got smarter, the world would be a better place. Kumbaya. So, but what is happening with housing affordability is not just a Phoenix thing. In fact, Phoenix isn't that bad compared to other cities, right? But it's not just a U.S. thing. It's a global issue. Everything across the board, all right? From Australia, wow, okay? I think they're willing to pay that much money so they have a place they can retreat to and lock the outside world out, because everything on that continent wants to kill you. To various other places, London, and it breaks down a lot of various factors. But one of this chart, this Demographica chart that study that they do every year, they actually had to add a brand new category. So their basic definition of affordable housing, which is where housing is 3 times your annual income. So if you're making $50,000 a year and houses around you cost $150,000, congratulations, that's an affordable market. All right. Then you have moderately, all right, so that's 0 to 3. You have moderately unaffordable, which is everywhere from 3.1 to 4. Then you have seriously unaffordable from 4.1 to 5. Example of a 5 of that same $50,000 medium average income for households, and your average house out there is $250,000. Right. Then you have severely unaffordable, which is 5.1 to 8.9. And now they have impossibly unaffordable. We've hit impossibly. All right. It reminds me a lot when we, Cromford Report, you used to do that heat map, and they had the insanity. Right. That was like a listing to contract ratio of something absolutely ridiculous. Impossible is anything over 9%. All right. Multiple cities across the world are considered impossibly. Right? And in case you're wondering, here in Phoenix, we come in at 5.4. So that puts us into the severely unaffordable category. Now, that being said, right, it didn't break down whether they're talking about Phoenix, the city, or including the surrounding areas, because like I said, if you want an affordable house, you need to learn to drive. All right, you need to have a car, and you need to get to that point where you can spend a couple hours a day driving to and from work, back and forth. But for like downtown area and whatnot, are you looking for the 3-2? All right, most people who find affordable 3-2s don't want to live in the neighborhoods that the affordable 3-2s are in. There's a correlation between the two. But the big things that have impacted housing is back in the 20s, early 20s, 2020, 2021, really cheap money out there, which drives up the amount of buyers that you can buy in. And then we had the COVID lockdown, which restricted a lot of the materials we used to build housing. This new regulatory system, which actually also started coming right about when people really suddenly got worried about urbanization and suburban sprawl, and about the time that everybody decided that suburbs were terrible, horrible places and you wanted to live in a habit trail, in the downtown big city, and that 15-minute city talk when you just need to be able to walk everywhere. In the restrictions on zoning and whatnot. Now, they had some really interesting solutions coming out that other places has tried. In Singapore, they treat housing as a public utility. That doesn't mean that all your housing is owned by the government of Singapore. But what they do is the government of Singapore builds the housing. And then they sell it to you, the consumer, at cost. And then when you turn around and you decide to resell, then you're doing a person-to-person sale. Right. So what that does is it lowers the entry level for housing because they're directly in charge of the zoning, they're directly in charge of everything else. And since they're not steered by profit, they can take a little 1/4 acre lot or a 1/5 acre lot and build a starter home on it, as opposed to a person who's looking at how do I maximize my profit on this thing, going, I can build a 1,600 square foot starter home, or I could build a 3,200 square foot McMansion, and because go to that price point. When the cost of the land is the same, your profit point is higher when you go for the building, especially when you add in zoning and regulation and that extra $50,000, all right, that they estimate just for dealing with bureaucratic government bullshit added to every new home. No. Another interesting thing, New Zealand had a really great idea. What they do is they actually made their municipalities create 30-year growth plans. And the municipalities had to designate the land that was going to be built over the next 30 years. Sort of like here in Arizona, we're always worried about water. You want to build a house, a subdivision, you have to say where you get in the water for the next 100 years. Well, looking at you, Glendale, that's a mighty fine city you have there, and you seem to take a whole bunch of federal funds for your various little things. Well, we expect you to show how are you growing for the next 30 years. Where are your housing going to? How is your housing going to be affordable? What's your mix between, starter homes to whatever? And so what New Zealand, what they wound up doing is they wound up to get these numbers is multi-family dwellings, apartment buildings, condominiums, townhomes, and duplexes. Now, I don't know why zoning areas have such a allergic reaction to duplexes. All right, my grandmother lived in a duplex. She owned the whole thing. She lived in one half. She rented out the other half. It offset her income. All right. How many people do you know out there who are like on the retiring side or getting close to the retiring side who could sell their 5-bedroom, 3-bath house, get themselves a little 2-1 duplex, live quite happily in one half, and rent the other side out to somebody who's just getting started? All right. But people don't like that because what is it with all the HOA videos of people recording HOA videos and they're all out of Chandler? What is going on with Chandler? Is it in the water where they're just like breeding Karens out there or something. Maybe Karens just gravitate to Chandler. My Karen doesn't want to gravitate to Chandler. If she wanted to gravitate to Chandler, she'd be gravitating without me. All right, because I'm a free agent. I'm not living in no HOA. That's as simple as that. Just like I'm not working with any company that has an HR department. All right, no Gladys is going to tell me what words I can't say. No, seriously, you restrict my vocabulary, you restrict thought. So, that being said, so great thing. Show notes below. Click on that. Hey, and while you're down there, like, share, subscribe. So, what else we got going on? Multiple articles have come out about rents. Are the rents too damn high? Well, yeah, they're high, but they're not going up. All right, and we're actually looked at the 4th year of average rents decreasing. I just had a conversation with a professional today, real professional, at least according to the Department of Labor and Department of Education. Was that what's caused the kerfluffle? Anyway, so this professional was asking me what the rental market is, and I explained to him. I was like, hey, if you got a tenant in one of your listings, keep them there. But don't chase them off thinking you could raise the rents, because the rents aren't going up. And a lot of that has to do with we have a lot of rentals out there. A lot of houses have been bought by hedge funds and converted over to rentals for the people who want a house. We got more 5-story apartment buildings going in downtown, which is taking out the rental market. So if you got somebody in your place and your net's being covered, good to go. Don't piss them off. Right? It will eventually come around, but it's getting harder and harder. Right? I've never liked this argument. I've told people against, I've using it as it's cheaper to buy than it is to rent. Not right now. The long term it is, okay, because appreciation and everything else, right? You buy a house in 10 years, you're going to have more money in your pocket, right, because of appreciation than you do if you rent, because the landlord's always going to rent the property to you more than the ownership and carrying cost of the house is. Right. But, all right, if you're just going to be here for 3 or 4 years and then you're going to move or whatever like that, it might not. I can tell you this because there's nobody else in the office. All right. If you're planning on moving in the next 3 to 4 years, I would not be buying a house. Seriously. All right. I just straight up, if you're sitting there, it's like, well, I'm getting ready to retire in 5 years, so I want to buy this house. Are you buying your forever house at that point? Or you just decided you want to move and get a new house because you need a new coat of paint on the current one, right? Your appreciation just has not happened over the last 2 years, and I'm not sure if it's going to happen that much next year. Although there's a lot of conversation going on, oh, next year is going to be great. Next year is going to be much better than 2025. And I can see that. All right, but 2025 was a pretty depressed year for real estate. All right. We can go down, but any kind of growth up, is that going to return us to the norms that we're used to seeing? And that really does boil down to, ultimately, the market is good or bad depending on where you're at in your life right now. Right? If you own a house, life's pretty good. Right? If you're trying to be that first-time home buyer, right, it's rough right now. Right? If you are suddenly needing to get rid of your house because of a job loss or illness or something, and now the bank's telling you got to sell because we're going to foreclose on you, that's a really bad place to be. That's another argument why you need to have short-term disability on your health insurance. A couple extra bucks, will keep your house if you decide to pull up sick for 9 weeks, because whatever. So, asterisks, I'm not a financial advisor, and I shouldn't be talking to you guys about what your insurance needs are. There's insurance people for that, but right. So rents are trending down. Houses are unaffordable. We're still looking at an interest rate drop coming up in the next, I think that's next week, all right? Talking a quarter. Will we see anything on that impact over on the 10-year bond? I'm expecting the 10-year bond to respond when and if we get a good stock market crash. As people start realizing, oh, we got a recovery going on in the stock market, and they pull their money out of that and they want to put it somewhere safe. When they fly to safety, they tend to go into treasury bonds and mortgage-backed securities. That's what Yeah, that's what we need. We need a good market crash, which I don't think we're going to be seeing anytime soon. So let's talk about our numbers. So I left my good mouse somewhere, and I think I know where, but that's why I have backups to backups. All right, guys, let's take a look at these are numbers for December 4th, 2025. Actives this week are 24,117, down 617 from the previous week. New listings are 1,317, down 318. Contracts are 1,660, down 446. Closings were 1,187. And coming soon to an MLS near you is 355 new listings. We're in December. This happens every December. Now, Crawford report numbers, our supply dropped to 104.1, probably because a lot of people, our actives have dropped, new listings have dropped, even though our contracts have dropped and everything like that. Remember, people are taking their houses off the market, but demand actually rose a little bit to 84.2. Interesting, giving us a Crawford report number of 81. So we're trending more towards balance, but it's all seasonality at this point. We can't trust anything that's in front of us. All right. But what I thought was very festive is, hey, look, how Christmas can you get? All of that green. This is a whole bunch of stuff moving to the seller side. Fountain Hill's still leading the pack at 186.1, up 17% over the previous month. Chandler, all right, up 13%. Maybe that's why they have so many HOA Karens out there. Scottsdale, Gilbert, Cave Creek, Paradise Valley, Phoenix has moved into a seller's market. All right, at 113, and so has Tempe. Hold on for just a second. I need to hack up a hairball. Okay, hairball taken care of. So we were at Tempe at 111.1, up 11%. They have moved into seller's market. Mesa, if they continue on this track, will probably be there by the end of the year. They're at 109.1, still technically balanced, with Avondale, Glendale, and Peoria all in the balanced market. Notice this time last month, Peoria was in a buyer's market at 81 point now they moved up 14 points to at 93.1. All right. A lot of this is because the inventory is coming off because of the holidays, guys. All right. And the rest of our buyer's markets are Goodyear, Santan Valley, Surprise, Queen Creek, Buckeye, and Maricopa. Look at Queen Creek and Maricopa both coming up 15% and 12% respectively. I got to remember that this is all seasonality. I got to remember the seasonality on these things, because otherwise I would say this is what I would expect to see if we suddenly had an interest rate drop. This is the kind of movement I would like to see, but a lot of it is because people are taking their houses off for the holidays, which means there's less inventory out there. All right. This is going to be really interesting. First week of January, when people put their houses on the market and buyers suddenly start showing up for that first month of January, it's going to be a lot of fun. All right? If you were thinking you're going to start buying in January, you need to be talking to a lender today. All right? Because we got 3 weeks rolling out right now. 3 weeks or so? Yeah. About 3.5 weeks going out right now. Lender can pull your credit, see if there's anything you want to do some repairs. You can start saving up. Saving up for buying a house is always difficult around the holidays because of all of our holiday expenditures. But, take a look at that. But if you want to be part of that spring fling, planning starts now. And how do you plan? You call me and I'll tell you how to plan. Or you go back and listen to 252 episodes. I should have that all covered for you right now. So, yeah. I'm really trying to figure out what this is. It's like, I'm fine until that little light goes on. And next thing you know, I'm just like hacking and coughing. I can sing karaoke and not have this problem at all. I can talk to you across the dinner table for hours on end if you'd listen to me. No problem whatsoever. This is always an issue. I'm still thinking maybe it's because how I keep I crunch down over the mic. Maybe I need to get one of those boom mics and sit there and talk to you like this. It's actually not a bad idea. Now, just as a final aside, we are having major winter weather throughout the entire country, except for us. We're actually supposed to be 77 tomorrow. snowing in Flagstaff, 77 down here in the Phoenix area, which is awesome. First major holidays out of the way. We're looking at the rest of the holidays. People are going to be having their little parties and stuff like that, usually out on the back porch, watching their children and pets around the very cool swimming pool. Because not only do you have to worry about drowning, now we need to discuss things called hypothermia. All right. And we're going to be working our circles when we talk to all these people and we see all of our friends and family and stuff like that. All right. How does that go? And I don't think we're going to get any more rain. So if anything's flooded, it usually means somebody missed irrigation. But still keep an eye out for that. All right. You guys have a great weekend. We'll wrap up next week. And we're in the home stretch for 2025. Let's end it strong. Talk to you guys later.